Hi, in this episode of Easter Eggs, we continue our look for some of the truths, hidden surprises, things we might have missed about the Easter story. And today we go to the cross. Luke 23, verse 34. Jesus says these words, "Father, forgive them." And he says those words from the cross. See, the dialogue on that Friday morning is bitter. The onlookers are screaming at him as he's hanging there dying, "Come down from the cross if you're the Son of God." The religious leaders of the day are mocking him by saying he saved others, but he can't save himself. From the soldiers who are there, he hears, "If you're the King of the Jews, save yourself." They are bitter words. They are like acid rolling across your skin, loaded with sarcasm. They're hateful. They're irreverent. Because when it comes to decency, wasn't it enough that there was a man there being crucified? Wasn't it enough that there was a man who many believed to be innocent that had been shamed and treated as brutally as any other criminal could have been? Weren't the nails sufficient? Were the crown of thorns somehow too soft for this crowd? Had the flogging been too short to satisfy the bloodlust of the people that were around the cross? Apparently so. Peter, who is a writer that's not normally given to using many descriptive verbs, said that the passers-by hurled insults at the crucified Christ. They just didn't yell or speak or scream. They hurled verbal stones. The use of the word hurled means that their intent was to hurt and bruise. It's almost as if they've said, "We've done our best to break the body, now let's break the spirit." And so their self-righteousness launched stinging arrows of pure poison. Of all the scenes that take place around the cross today, you have to ask yourself, what kind of people would mock a dying man? Who would stand at the base of the cross and sneer at one who was laced with pain? I mean, would you make fun of someone who was seated in an electric chair getting ready to die? Or would you point and laugh at a criminal who had a hangman's noose around his neck? See, you can be sure of one thing, that Satan and his demons were the cause of such filth that day. And then the criminal on cross number 2 throws his punch. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." The words that he threw were meant to wound. And there's nothing more painful than words that are said with the intent to hurt. That's why James would call the tongue a fire. It burns every bit as destructive as any blowtorch you've ever seen. Now, in our life, we have been in an environment where words have been hurled at us, where things have been said that we knew that weren't true, where we had to survive the onslaught of a rumor or gossip or something that wasn't kind. And what does it leave you with? Well, it leaves you with a broken heart, broken pride, maybe a broken spirit. For some, they've heard it so much that the wound is now old, and not a day goes by do they not remember what was said. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 23, it says this, "When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." You've often heard the phrase, "What did Jesus do?" Well, he did not retaliate. He didn't look down from the cross and say, "I'm going to get you," as many of us would have done had we been in that position. Those statements are not found anywhere crossing Christ's lips. Peter gave us the answer. He simply entrusted himself to him who judges justly. If you ever wonder what to do when people hurl those insults at you or say things that are not nice or say things that are not kind. The answer is not to react with anger. Jesus didn't. And if you think somehow you have the right to hold a grudge and you've missed the story of Easter and you've missed this moment on the cross, because I promise you that whatever you dealt with has never been as tough as what Jesus was dealing with there, and yet he doesn't hold a grudge. It makes my grudges seem childish. And Jesus looked down from the cross and he looked at the people who were hurling insults and he loved them. And he was going to give them grace. Amazing grace. So for you and I, the answer of how do you deal with those times and those moments when the words are hard and they hurt and they're harsh actually comes from Jesus, and he teaches us on the cross. He simply entrusts himself to the one who judges justly. In other words, God will take care of business. God's going to balance the book. And we can trust that. Jesus is still teaching us, even in the moments when he's dying. A surprise, an Easter egg, if you will, that we don't always remember as we look at the Easter story. I look forward to joining you again next time.